There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered, but legends never die.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the channel if this is your first time. This is a book tag. This is a really cool book tag actually. The questions are really good. I'm on my lunch break, so I thought what a better time to do a book tag than on your lunch break. Yeah! This is a tag created by Celeste from Bookbound Weirdo. Have a look at Celeste's channel, it's really good. There's tons of stuff on there, so check Celeste's channel out. I'm going to tag loads of people in this one because I think they're really interesting questions. And this is the 27 Club book tag. These questions are all about the 27 Club. So these are celebrities, musicians that died at the age of 27. So tragic deaths very early on, but they made a huge impact in the little time that they were in the music industry. Let's crack on. So the first question is, the prompt: Robert Johnson, classic blues man who infamously made a deal with the devil to become a better guitarist at the crossroads. And it's a book or character that started it all, obviously because he's such an early blues man. And I'm going to go with The Stainless Steel Rat. So The Stainless Steel Rat by Harry Harrison and the subsequent Stainless Steel Rat books, I've said on the channel before that they were really massive part of my journey into reading. They were really informative in the kind of style I like, the thing that grabbed me as a reader when I was really young. So they're a lot of fun. They're very light and very short actually, but they're just a lot of fun. So the first book sets up like a crime scene. So he's like trying to rob this bank and then he gets caught, and rather than going to prison they ask him to work for him. And he works for, I think they called the Special Corps, from what I remember, and he does these missions for them through the series. And in book 3 goes back in time. In book 4 was my favourite because Stainless Steel Rat Wants You was my favourite, and that's got because by then he's married through the series, and he's got 2 kids, and the way the family go on the mission together is really cool. And I remember there's a moment when his two sons pretend to be aliens. They kind of dress up as aliens to get through security or something. And that sort of thing's definitely an influence on my writing. So anyway, Stainless Steel Rat, absolutely love it. Harry Harrison can be a lot of fun, and that kind of started it all for me. Number 2, Janis Joplin, a book that celebrates the beauty of imperfection. Okay, so I'm actually going to go with a book that seems to be a weird example where everyone raved about it when it came out, and now it seems to be like a guilty pleasure. People don't really talk about it anymore, and the only time people do talk about it is if they criticise it and say it's awful or badly written. So I enjoyed it when I read it. I'd be interested to know if people did enjoy it, because again, people don't really talk about it much. But it's Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, and I haven't bothered to read the sequel because apparently it's just a retread and worse as well. And I do get the criticism he gets, and some people have just called it like a juvenile male fantasy kind of thing. But there's lots of things I liked about it. I liked the plot, and I liked the relationship between him and Artemis and that kind of thing. So yeah, and I did like the 80s references. So he gets criticised for putting too much of that stuff in and putting it in a dumpy way. But I enjoyed that aspect of it. It's quite nice to see the words "oingo boingo" in the first few pages. So yeah, let me know if you think it's a terrible book or if you quite enjoyed it or whatever. But the reason why it's good for the prompt is because Artemis's character has got a facial imperfection, and when she's embarrassed about it, and when he does meet her in person, spoilers, he doesn't care. Yeah, I think it's quite a nice example of that. But it's probably the first time I've mentioned that book on this channel because it seems to be such sort of thing that gets people into a rage and people hate it, and it could be seen as a guilty pleasure if you do like it, I guess. Now I don't know. I mean, people raved about it when it came out, but anyway. Number 3, Jimi Hendrix, a book that never reads the same twice. I love that because Jimi Hendrix is definitely someone who is endlessly interesting musically, and the man was an absolute genius, and it's so sad that he didn't live longer. I mean, it's obviously true for all of these people, and I'm a big fan of Janis Joplin, by the way, as well. But yeah, Hendrix is always fascinating with his tracks. So if you haven't heard his stuff a lot, definitely check him out. Kind of an obvious thing to say, but Hendrix was amazing. So a book that never reads the same twice. And I have picked, where is it? I've got some notes here. I have picked Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. And the reason why I've picked that is because I think because of the nature of the book, the themes in the book, and what it tackles and what the characters are saying in the book and how they're feeling, it's definitely a book that changes however old you are. So I've read it 3 times now. And I'm going to read it again in this Bradbury deep dive I'm doing. So that'll be the 4th time. And reading it as a kid is very different from reading it as an adult because you're relating to different parts of the story and different elements of the story and different characters in the story. So I do think that's a really good example of that. Okay, number 4, Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison, what a man. A book that explores the theme of death and rebirth. Okay, so I like the Doors a lot. I think weirdly, my students don't really think about them or know about them quite a lot. There's a few that come along that do, but yeah, it's very unusual to get a music student that's 16 years old and knows about the Doors, weirdly. So they've gone off the radar a little bit for young people, but I think the Doors are amazing. So what have I got for that? So explores death and rebirth. Immortality Inc. by Robert Sheckley. It's a really good book. It's not massively funny, it's not hilarious or anything, but it's got this sort of light tone to it. But it does explore the themes of a society where immortality is normal and how the character has to deal with that. It's really good. And there's a few other world-building things that Robert Sheckley put into the future that are quite cool, sort of social commentary elements as well. And Robert Sheckley is someone I don't think gets talked about enough. So Immortality Inc. It's quite short as well, so definitely seek that one out. And you sometimes get Immortality Inc. in Robert Sheckley omnibus books as well. So it features in a few different books because it is quite short. But if you can get hold of it, read Immortality Inc. It's really good. Obviously, Immortality Incorporated, you know. Okay. Number 5 is Amy Winehouse. Sorry, I've got a cough. I'm trying to suppress the cough. Amy Winehouse, a book or character that deserves a huge apology from everyone. Yeah, sorry about that, another coughing fit. So for this one, I'm using Robert Sheckley's book, Untouched by Human Hands, which is his first collection, and it features a story, The Seventh Victim. And The Seventh Victim is the first example of those stories I'm talking about. So you've got like Battle Royale, you've got The Running Man, you've got The Hunger Games, all those kind of like, battle tournament things where people are celebrities who are fighting to the death and that kind of thing. And it starts off really, as far as I know, with The Seventh Victim by Robert Sheckley. And the reason why I'm including him as an example of someone that deserves an apology is nobody ever talks about that. Nobody ever says that he came up with this idea or at least did an early version of it. I mean, there might be an earlier version, but nobody ever mentions it. And it's a short story, but, people like to find out the history of these things and they never talk about Robert Sheckley. So yeah, The Seventh Victim, which is a really cool story from Untouched by Human Hands. Okay, where are we? I've got to redo this again. Number 6, Brian Jones from the Stones, a book that is surrounded by conspiracy theories. Okay, so this is a book that, I haven't read it yet, but I have got it, and it took me years to find it. I eventually did find it in the wild. I did mention it before, and Sean D. Stanfast told me that there's lots of lies in the book. But then that's part of the thing about the book and about the story. But he says it's a bit sensationalist, and the story has got that kind of sensationalist element to it. So, it's got that sort of Hollywood Reporter kind of sleazy kind of thing to it. And anyway, it's Hot Toddy, which is the story of Thelma Todd. Thelma Todd, I think I absolutely love what she does. I've seen a lot of her early films because she was like a comedy actress from the early cinema days, and she featured in 2 Marx Brothers films, Horse Feathers and Monkey Business, 2 of the best ones, and she was brilliant in those. But she's also brilliant in her own films where she was partnered up with a couple of different actress partners. So she was a really funny, brilliant timing, really brilliant actress that was on these comedies. And anyway, her death is surrounded in mystery because it's all wrapped up in like mafia, and it was a murder that wasn't quite well. It's just lots of like mystery around the murder. So I haven't read the book yet, but I have the book, and I wanted to mention it here because I'd love to know if anyone else knows about this story and likes Thelma Todd. And then number 7. Alan Wilson, a book that contributed to the popularization of its genre. So for that one, I have got, I am picking Douglas Adams' book, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So this could be a bit obvious, but I do think that science fiction comedy had a huge boost with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Obviously, it's probably the most famous example of it, but I also think that it deserves its reputation. I think it's amazing, but it's also one of those things that made lots of other writers want to write like that, and I write like that. So my last book, especially, and bits of my short story book, definitely have that tone to it. My Ethel Pinchworthy story, which is very popular, that has definitely got a hitchhiker's feel to it. So yeah, I think that book definitely popularised the genre, absolutely. Number 8, where are we? I'm looking at the wrong bit. Pete Ham, a book that challenges the notion of loyalty. So quite a nice prompt for that guy, which is cool. So for this one, I'm picking a really good crime story book that's a very famous crime story that I read when earlier on in the year. The Postman Always Rings Twice. It's a fantastic story. If you haven't read it yet, I definitely recommend it. It's one of the best crime stories I've ever read, and the atmosphere is amazing, and you just feel this desperation with the characters, and you feel this sort of urgency and this lust in their on the pages and in their dialogue, and they both need each other, but not really for great reasons, and it's just brilliant book. So The Postman Always Rings Twice is my choice for that one. Number 9 is Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain, quite a famous guy. My students absolutely love Kurt Cobain. I personally preferred Alice in Chains to Nirvana, and Pearl Jam to Nirvana as well, but extremely important man. And it's a book that could pass as a humble old sweater, but is a total legend. So I like the idea that, sometimes he dressed down, didn't really dress glamorously, but obviously he was a very important man. And that is where the book idea comes from. So my choice for this is John Steinbeck, Cannery Row. So Cannery Row, the reason why I think it's quite a nice response to this prompt is that it's quite, in some ways, if you look at the plot and you look at the nature of the book, it's a very ordinary book in that sense, but it really isn't an ordinary book, because even though it doesn't have much of a plot, and it's like a character portrait, and almost like a character portrait of a town or a series of characters, it's so beautifully written. It's such an important book. It's my favourite John Steinbeck book, and it's just absolutely beautiful prose, and it's a brilliant example of how well he writes. It's quite short as well, so you can dip into it if you don't know what you think of Steinbeck or whether you like it. But yeah, because of Mice and Men is short, but it's got quite a lot that happens in it, and it's not that surprising that it's such a legendary book. This one, I think the plot doesn't really give itself that much chance, but it's the way it's written that makes it such a beautiful thing. So yeah, Cannery Row by John Steinbeck is my choice for that. Okay, so I really love this. It's a really very good tag. So I'm going to tag some people. Right, here we go. I've got this little list here. Troy Treadup. I'm going to. He's tagged me before, and I really love what he does on his channel. So Troy Treadup, Micah Cummins, Big Al's Hard Books and Classics. Aaron read a book. So Aaron sometimes does my tags and stuff. So Aaron read a book. If you want to do it, that'd be really cool, Aaron. Cliff's Dark Gems. So I might have got his name wrong because I was going to double check what it was called. But Cliff, I love your channel, and it'd be really cool if Cliff did it. MJ from Reading This Life. Don't think she's done this yet. Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Be awesome. Claire Fenby. So Claire, I haven't tagged you yet, so it'd be nice to see your response to this. These are a couple of people I've met in London, which is awesome. Charlie Brooke Reads. So Charlie, if you'd like to do this one, it'd be great. And the person who organised the meet-up, Katie from Books and Things. It's quite a nice tag. You might want to do this one, I don't know. And J. Scott Phillips, who also tags me sometimes. So those are the bunch of people I like to tag. It's a really awesome tag. So thanks, Celeste, for doing it. Thanks for tagging me. Thanks for watching. Bye.